All right, Friday forecast time, Turkey Day edition. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Will it be a happy Thanksgiving for Nebraska? Let's first look back before we look ahead. Wisconsin, a winnable game for Nebraska, but much like it's been the last couple of years, they couldn't finish the deal.
Yeah, Nebraska came out with a great plan, but the fourth quarter just going against the wind, and they just didn't have an answer to slow down Wisconsin's ground game on top of extending a couple drives. I think Nebraska was maybe a first down or two from winning that game, and they just could not get that key first down to chew off another 2 or 3 minutes of clock.
Interesting, on Tuesday when they meet the media, the Huskers talked about the rivalry and how nice it was. Caleb Tanner said, "We'd love to ruin Iowa's hopes to be the Big Ten West winner." It seems like this is the type of game in which could add a big-time chapter in this growing young rivalry.
Yeah, this would just be kind of par for the course of this rivalry. I mean, Iowa's taken complete hold of it, but Nebraska has been close. Every one of Scott Frost's Iowa losses was a good game. I mean, I think people lose sight of that. Yes, Frost lost the previous 4 games, but every game went down to basically the final play. And it's not like the gap in terms of just on the field is that much. Nebraska needs to figure out how to finish. That's been the theme, the issue. Can they finish a game? Now, Iowa's going to be without Sam Laporta, who is their key weapon, but Iowa's not known for offense. They're going to win this game if they win it with defense and special teams. Can Nebraska prevent those mistakes that Iowa feasts off and wins games by?
You mentioned Scott Frost. Yeah, he didn't beat the Hawkeyes. All 4 games, though, decided by a 1 score or less. We've heard that before.
Where have I heard that
before? 7 wins in a row for Iowa against Nebraska. The last win, you remember that one, 2014.
Bo Pelini's final game in Iowa City. It was the 9th win of that season, and I'll never forget Sean Eichhorst's comments that he put no stock in that win over Iowa because he had to measure where the Hawkeye program was at and it didn't have any value in his book. And that comment almost fueled this rivalry. It felt like at that time, Nebraska had really kind of owned Iowa. Since that moment, 7 in a row. I mean, Nebraska in their history, Wisconsin and Iowa, the way they've just dominated. I mean, you'd have to go well back in history to find teams that have dominated Nebraska like the Hawkeyes and the Badgers have the last 10 years.
Yeah, Sean Eichhorst saying I had to evaluate where Iowa was. That kind of stuck with a lot of people over the years. Iowa, you mentioned it, Jack Campbell, one of the best defenders in the country. Some people even whispering, hey, he should even be mentioned with a Heisman Trophy award. We'll see about that. But their defense, no debating about that. They are one of the top units and opportunistic. I believe they have 4 return touchdowns on defense alone. Sometimes the defense outscores their offense.
And that's how they beat Minnesota last week. They were underdogs by about a field goal in Minneapolis, and they were able to get a key pick. It was Jack Campbell. That they called him out of bounds, but it looked like a pick 6 at the moment, and then that set up the game-winning field goal. So their defense really is their best offense. And that's weird to say, but they literally get more production in terms of points from their defense.
A lot of talk about motivation. What does Nebraska have to play for? This would probably be Mickey Joseph's last game as interim head coach of Nebraska. What do you think the motivation is going into Black Friday?
Well, I just think beating Iowa. I mean, this if you care about Nebraska football, this should bother you, that you've lost 7 games in a row to Iowa, and they've kind of waved their finger at you. Kickers are blowing kisses at your sideline I mean, there's just been a lot of salt in this wound the last 7 years. That alone, like, hey, let's give one back to them. Our season's gone down the tubes, but let's figure out a way to ruin their season a little bit here.
And big picture-wise, Mickey Joseph was asked a bunch of questions on Tuesday to evaluate not only the job he did, but what he remembered most about this time. All in all, he said he wouldn't change much other than, obviously, the results on the field. What do you think the job of Mickey Joseph has done over the last 2 months to keep this thing together?
Well, it's a very tough job. You think about all the coaches they brought in. He didn't really know a lot of these guys. He's never worked with Mark Whipple and the defensive coaches on the staff. And to kind of manage this, the roster, all the other things that go with it, it's no easy job. And he was only, I say only, but $33,000 a month. When you look at the lowest paid Big Ten coach makes $4 million a year. I mean, he was getting paid chump change to take on the responsibility of what he had to do. It probably would have been a lot easier to stick as a position coach for him over the last 7-8 games. But, he's learned a lot, and I think Mickey Joseph, no matter what happens, will be loved by Husker fans for a long time.
No question about it. It's going to be a busy weekend both on and off the field for Nebraska football. Up first, the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's a 3 o'clock kick at Kendeigh Stadium. It's on the Big Ten Network.